the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, we all know Christmas time is a time of stories. We have a lot of stories in the scriptures about Joseph and Mary and shepherds and kings. So, of course, today I would like to add one more story. Once upon a time, there was a young boy by the name of Albert. Of course, everybody called him Bert, or Bertie. It was a cold winter's night, not long before Christmas. Of course, Bert was finding it hard to go to sleep. He heard voices downstairs and it sounded much more interesting than sleep. So Bert snuck out of his room, down the hall, and peeked down the stairs where he could see his father and Aunt Gertrude speaking together. He heard his aunt say, "I know that my beloved husband Frank, God rest his soul, wanted little Bert to have this. And I think this is the Christmas that he should receive it. This toy train has been in our family for 6 generations. And it is a shame to see it lying in pieces in Frank's old workshop. Do you think you could put it together and wrap it up for little Bert?" Bert's father said that he'd give it a try tomorrow. It's a little late tonight. But leave the box here, and I'll do what I can. So Aunt Gertrude left, and Bert's father turned out the lights and went off to bed. Well, by now, little Bert wasn't tired at all, and he couldn't imagine what this little toy train was that they were talking about. So he quietly tiptoed downstairs and looked in the old cardboard box lying on the kitchen table. What a wonder inside! A jumble of old iron parts and screws and springs and levers. What a marvelous thing this could be. It sort of looks like the parts of a miniature old steam locomotive. Well, Bert had seen locomotives, and in fact his friend had a toy train that looked a little bit like this. I'll bet that I could put this together myself right now. Let's see now. This wheel goes here, and that rod goes there, and soon the mechanical train began to take shape in Bert's little hands. Putting it together seemed quite easy, and Bert was feeling quite proud of himself of what he could do. Soon there it was, a black iron locomotive that even had a little place to put money. Wheels that turned. But there were a couple parts left over, and he didn't know where they would go. And it seemed sort of loose. So he turned the wheels and crunch, it locked up. Everything seemed to stick, and he couldn't get it back loose again. And there it was, broken. Now what was he to do? If he left it this way, he would get caught. But if he tried to take it apart, he would break it even more. There was no way out. It looked like this was going to be the worst Christmas ever. He began to cry. And he picked the locomotive up and turned it over in his hands, trying to find a way to make it work, but there was nothing he could do. And suddenly there was a tapping at the door. And Aunt Gertrude came in. "Well, my little Bert, it seems like your busy little hands couldn't wait until Christmas. Helping your father put it together, are we?" Well, there's nothing Bert could say, but Aunt Gertrude could see it all in his tears. "Can't seem to make it work," she said. "Well, of course not. There's a part missing. I found it on the floor of my car when I got back home, and I brought it immediately back over here for your father. But it looks like you could use that part right now. Let's take a look at this old thing. It's over 150 years old, you know. That means it has survived many little hands, just as busy and curious as yours. But it can't fit together or work right if one of the pieces is missing. So Aunt Gertrude took the train, said, let me put this right here. So she moved things around just a little bit, twisting it just so, took it apart, put the right part in the right place, and in no time, all the pieces fit together, and the little train worked. She took a quarter out of her purse, slipped it into the slot, and of course the bell rang, just like on a real train. And then she handed it back to him and reminded him, nothing works unless all the right pieces are in place. Sometimes we don't all have the right pieces. St. Augustine described humanity as having a piece of our soul missing, a piece that is shaped like God. And as long as that God-shaped piece was missing, we would not work right. We could not be what we were meant to be. We might try to fill that space with other things, work, drink, material possessions, power, whatever. But we would never be quite right unless we filled that God-shaped piece with what was needed, God. When the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, when God came to earth and was born as Jesus, son of Mary and Joseph, that missing God-shaped piece came into our world, came into our lives to fill that void. And now, with that missing piece, we could work, we could function, we could be what we were created to be. Merry Christmas.